Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Tinfoil Hat. I just wanted to put this little kind of disclaimer out before you listen to this episode. This episode was recorded last week. I went out of town for family for about 9 days. So Ryan and I, because the show's being really cooking with gas, thanks to you guys, your passion for what we're doing, the show has been growing. We kind of wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a beat. So we recorded over 3 days, 4 episodes. And one of the episodes we did was this episode, which was Q Anonymous. We had a guy, his name is Praying Medic, and he has a wonderful YouTube channel, and it's dedicated, a lot of it, to Q Anonymous. So we had him on. I really enjoyed this episode. Well, after we recorded, 2 days later, a firestorm breaks out. And there's this whole thing, is Q Anonymous a LARP? Has he been compromised? And all this stuff has come out about whether Q is real, whether Trump is real, and all that stuff. So part of me was a little hesitant to put this episode out. But I would feel that is very disingenuous and would be rude to Dave, the Praying Medic, who was kind enough to spend time and come on our show and, basically give his insight into his passion, which is Q Anonymous. Based on his tweets and his YouTube, he is still a very passionate Q supporter, and I respect that. I want to tell you that myself personally, I broke my own rules of the Ronin when it comes to Q. I broke the rule, which is I do not defend anybody I do not personally know, and I defend no actions that I was not personally a part of. I did that with Q. And, people call it hope porn. I wanted to believe it. Now, I personally believe that the early Q stuff was real, and that this stuff that we are going to discuss later on post that Q put out didn't seem to have the same passion, the same feel to it. The verbiage was different, everything like that. There are things that David talks about, having dreams about Q. He's a little bit more, he's more passionate about Trump. I have to be honest with you, ever since this Q stuff, this tweet that he put out about China and working with the Chinese government to save all these Chinese jobs, again, breaking the rules of the Ronin, I started to kind of defend and hope that there would be change coming in our government, and I don't feel that way right now. But I respect Dave, and I want to put this out because he's kind enough to come on the show and do it, and I support him and his passion and his belief, and so obviously this is going to be an interesting episode. Some of the information might have changed, your views on Q might have changed, but I just want to put this out, and I want to put the disclaimer out that my feelings on Q have changed a little bit, and I'm not saying that the early stuff isn't real, because I believe that was, but I think he's been compromised. Again, I'm not an Alex Jones guy. I'm not a Dr. Jerome Corsi guy. I don't know them, so therefore I cannot defend them. So I just wanted to put this episode out of respect, and I just know you guys. I want to believe in Q. It's just a crazy thing. So I just wanted to put this out, and I hope you guys enjoy. And I'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts. And, let's keep it proper, keep it gentlemanlike, or do whatever you want. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate you listening. So thank you very much. And please enjoy this episode with the Praying Medic. Take care. If you want to check us out on all of our social media platforms,
on Instagram at Tinfoil Hat Pod,
on Twitter at Tinfoil Hat Cast, or allcomedyt-shirts.com.
Email us at tinfoilhatpod@gmail.com.
Tinfoil hat. Tinfoil hat.
Hey man, where's the truth there, dog?
Tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Yes, there it is. Everybody's favorite. Vidal Sassoon Herbal Essence moment with the guy with the best hair in the game. Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We're very excited to be here. Real quick before we get into our wonderful guest that we have on, I'm very excited about that. June 1st is the big show. That's right, June 1st, Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco. It's the Tinfoil Hat Comedy Night. Off the Grid is going to be there. Eddie Bravo is going to be there. Trez Mala and myself. And hopefully we'll have a very special guest. We'll find out in the next day or so whether he's going to be in it. But we're going to be there. Tickets are moving. Go to cobbscomedyclub.com. Do not go to a third-party one. They're going to charge you too much, $35, $40. It's a $20 to $25 ticket. Make sure you get it off the official site. And then Sacramento, we're coming. Grab your tickets. We've sold some good amount of tickets, and we're about 3 weeks out. So we are very excited about this. Now, big news to announce that Tinfoil Hat is doing a very special show May 25th at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room. It's upstairs. I believe the time is 10 o'clock. We're going to be doing Eddie Bravo, again, Off the Grid. We got Trez Mala's coming in town, and we're going to see if we can get Duncan and maybe Joe Rogan, but can't guarantee anything on those two guys. But we will be doing it. We will be putting on a show, and those go live today. It will sell out. It's only like a 50-seat room, so come on out. It's the first one. We're going to be running kind of how the show's going to go. We're going to do a little stand-up, followed by Q&A podcast at the end. So we're very excited about it. And that is the business. Oh, All Things Comedy t-shirts. We got new shirts coming out. Go grab a t-shirt, support the show. The Patreon is killing it. We're putting out we got one coming out with, I wasn't on this one. It will be the first Tinfoil Hat without me. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to hear that. And then we have the one with my father coming out where I ask him all about conspiracy. So get to patreon.com/tinfoil hat. Nice. And with that, I'm very excited to bring in our guest. I love the world of conspiracies. I love where we're at. I love the truth seekers. I love, it is a wonderful time to be into the world of seeking the truth. And because everything that we've been talking about forever seems to be coming together at one time. And one of the most exciting parts of being in the conspiracy theory world, even though our guest doesn't consider himself a conspiracy theorist, I wear it with pride. One of the most exciting things is this thing called QAnonymous. And we're going to dive into that world. And hopefully by the end of this, thanks to our guests, you guys will have a really good understanding of what Q is. And you'll be able to start following and then in turn be able to help spread his knowledge. So please welcome from his amazing YouTube channel, The Praying Medic, everybody. How are you, Dave? Can you hear me?
I'm doing great.
Okay, perfect.
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I just recently found out about your YouTube page. A friend of mine, a fellow Armenian, sent me the thing, and I watched it because it was about Mueller, and we'll get into all that. But, man, your information is amazing. Why don't you tell them a little about yourself, if that's cool, or more about your YouTube page, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, well, I'm a paramedic, worked as a medic for 35 years. I am not a conspiracy theorist.
That's okay. We still love you.
But my wife kind of is. And when Q started, putting out information back in October, my wife she happened to run into Tracy Beans. And Tracy Beans had been doing a lot of videos on Q. So I wasn't interested in it. I'm not interested in conspiracy theories and all that stuff. But in January, I had a dream where I met a guy very much like Q in a dream. And he was talking to me and he was helping me correct my misunderstandings of events that happened in the past. And then we kept talking and he started asking me all these questions. Who are these people? How are they connected to this event? Why is that relevant? Who are these people? What is this event all about? How were they involved? Why is it relevant? Right? He starts asking me these questions, and he's just like Q. And then at the end of this dream, he looks at me. And by the way, the guy in the dream looked exactly like Mr. Miyagi.
Hey, dude.
So-
Asian dudes are very deep and spiritual, and I get that. We all
Gosh.
have our own spirit animal.
Exactly. I know. So he looks at me and he says, "Do you understand that this is primarily about the children?"
Okay. I get that.
And that was the end of the dream.
Wow.
And I knew from that point on that I needed to get into this whole thing with Q and figure out what was going on. What is Q about? Who is Q? What's the mission? What's the purpose? Because I knew what he meant when he said this is about the children, right?
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of kids being sold into sex slavery and stuff like that.
Yep.
So
we talk about that all the time on this show. We've dedicated ourselves to spreading the truth about that, to the point where sometimes I think we talk about it too much, but I wonder if there is too much, if we could cover it too much, because it is such an amazingly important issue in our time that people don't want to deal with because it's too real, it's too painful, and it's too evil. And we refuse to shy away from it, even though we're on a comedy podcast channel and they're nice enough to let us be ourselves here, that we push that narrative, because the truth is, the more you ignore all this stuff, and even though you don't subscribe to the world of conspiracies, but the stuff that we do talk about in the show is so big that if you ignore it, you ignore what's going on, because either you don't want to ruffle feathers or rock the boat because you got a paycheck or your job, you got to take care of your kids. I actually do believe that by ignoring it, you make the world a worse place later on for your children. So no matter how much you make in your checks and how nice your house is or your car is, by ignoring what's going on, you're sending these kids into a world where there's not a lot of jobs out there. It's not safe for them if they're children or women or even men. We're sending men into war, women into war as well, as obviously, but we're sending people into these banker wars and stuff like that. So I think it's very important that we have these conversations, because it will allow the truth to come out and for us to take back, I believe, our country, and that's really why we push all this stuff. So did you have a YouTube channel before you got into Q?
Yes, I have had a YouTube channel since 2009.
Wow.
I'm an author, and I write books on healing and seeing visions. I write books on the supernatural, and I've had a lot of videos that are partly just teaching people about healing, teaching people about how to see visions, emotional healing, things of that nature. And I've never had much traffic on my YouTube channel until I started doing videos about Q.
And that's,
I for years had very low subscribers, very low viewers. As soon as I started doing videos about Q, everything went off the charts. People are very interested in Q.
Well, I think a big reason is how well you produce these videos, the information you put out, and the way you get the information out, the way that you help people digest all this incredible stuff that is in fact going on. So I just real quick before, okay, go on. So
no, I was just going to say the reason why my videos are different from most people's, a couple of reasons. Number one, like I said, I'm not really into conspiracy theories, so
which
I come
is
at this from
interesting
a
to me.
different perspective. Number two, I'm a teacher. I've spent many years teaching medicine, teaching advanced cardiac life support, teaching trauma life support. Everywhere I've ever worked, I've always done a lot of teaching. So although a lot of people are able to talk about Q, it's difficult to teach other people about Q who don't know anything about Q.
Well, let's do that. So we've been saying the word Q, and I'm just wondering.
Go.
So Q symbolizes, is this even supposedly a real top secret Q clearance? So it represents, like, if you have Q clearance, you have access to everything.
It's an energy clearance. It's the highest. It is the highest level of a clearance you can have in the U.S. government, if I'm correct.
Interesting.
It is. The interesting thing is, Q has actually never claimed to have a Q level clearance. Not exactly. Q came on 4chan October 28th, and then one of the very first posts, the title of it was Q Clearance Patriot. Okay. you could assume that Q was claiming I have that clearance, security clearance. But that's an assumption. Q never said I am a person with a Department of Energy Q level clearance. That was just sort of the title of that post.
Interesting.
And that thread was
people have debated and questioned, is this person that actually claiming to have that level of clearance? It's an assumption.
So who do you think Q is? If you had to guess, who do you think?
Do you really want to know?
Should we save it to the end?
100% want to know who you believe Q is.
Well, how about what people are speculating? What do you think Thomas Drake, the NSA whistleblower? People have suggested in ideas. Have you heard about this?
I have gone back and forth. Yeah, I mean, I've gone back and forth, and I've had a lot of discussions with people about who Q might be. You know, Mike Flynn,
Steve
Rogers, Bannon. NSA, Steve Pachanek, right? Mm-hmm. Some people believe Stephen Miller is a good person because Miller is on Trump's comms team. And some people believe that the way that Q writes posts is similar to the way that Miller helps Trump write speeches. Some people have suggested Sebastian Gorka. Some people have suggested there's just a lot of different people.
Well, who do you think?
One of the interesting things is there is an NSA group that is called the Q group.
Really?
And did you not know that?
No. Dropping knowledge.
Do you want to know what their responsibilities are?
Please do tell.
They are the NSA's police department.
Wow.
So I posted about this on Twitter. I did an entire thread where on who Q might be. Right?
Okay.
And I started digging, and I found this. I was working with some people on a Discord channel, and we followed out some leads, and we found out that there's actually inside the NSA directorate, there's all these different directorates, and they have letter prefixes. There is a C directorate, there's a B directorate, there's an I directorate, and there's a Q directorate. And the Q directorate inside the NSA is their internal law enforcement. They are responsible for tracking down and arresting traitors and people who violate national security inside the NSA. The Q directorate is actually law enforcement inside the NSA.
So it's not one person; it's many. Do we know who is in this group?
It's like it's like the idea of Shakespeare. They believe it's an amalgamation of multiple people. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, even the Queen of England and multiple people.
Really?
And even in country music, if you guys know who Johnny Rebel is, it's a bunch of different people producing under one person's name. Yeah.
You just blew my mind.
If you look at Q's latest post, Q has been having some trip code problems.
What? Now explain trip code. Trip code problems.
This is a recent post from last night. We made a mistake on Q research board. They exposed their password. They didn't input the Q number correctly when they were logging in, and they exposed their password. And so the admin said, "Hey, Q, change your trip code." But Q said, "We made a mistake." Q often refers to himself as "we" as a team. So I think it's a good assumption that Q is more than one person.
Wow, you just blew my skull.
And to backtrack a little, so the very first posting was on a CBTS, which meant Calm Before the Storm on October 28th. Is that correct?
My birthday.
No way.
Yes, that was the first one. It was a post about Hillary Clinton being arrested.
Yeah, in these, Q claimed Trump was being protected by the military because the CIA, FBI, and Secret Service were all corrupt. So it seems like what's really happening here is that the politicians and all the intelligence communities, and do you know how many under the branch of the NSA, National Security Agency,
right.
Do you know how many branches there are?
1,000.
There's a FBI, CIA,
yeah,
DHS. There's 16 different intelligence agencies.
Different, and we only know of CIA, FBI, NSA, Homeland Security.
So he's saying all these 16 agencies are involved with the politicians, mainly the Democrats, And so all the war hawks and the 5-star generals and the good old boys, Republicans, they put Mango Mussolini into power so they could pull the strings and then reveal all the shenanigans going on the other side of the dark arts.
Can I break in here and
Definitely.
Please do.
drop something on you?
Yes.
I can almost guarantee you there are many more intelligence agencies than anyone knows about publicly.
Yeah.
If you had
wanna
to
know
guess, why?
All right. Have you ever heard of the National Reconnaissance Office?
I have only because I've dug deep, but yes, that's crazy.
I've heard of it, but I can't recall what exactly it is.
The National Reconnaissance Office is in charge of our satellite program. Okay. They were tasked with taking over the satellite program from NASA in 1960.
Really?
And they were never publicly acknowledged until the 1980s. Actually, they were first, I think, mentioned accidentally in congressional hearings in the 90s. And there was never any public, like, open discussion about the National Reconnaissance Office until, well, years after that. So the National Reconnaissance Office, they're kind of a sister agency to the NSA.
Yeah.
They do satellite recon, satellite communications, surveillance, stuff like that. They existed as an agency for 35 years and no one knew about them.
I mean, you know that so much of that happens as well. Like, just
Now, how many agencies exist right now that we're not going to know about for 20 years?
so much, man. When the Pentagon says like they can't account for like what
Trillions of dollars.
trillions
Where do you think
of
that money's going?
Dude, they know exactly where that money's going, dude. That isn't lost. Someone didn't drop their wallet. Like, that is out there, dude. And, you know, my whole opinion is, like, when you see, like, I remember in the 80s, there's this huge uproar because somebody saw, like, a receipt from Congress or the Senate, and it was, like, $5,000 for a hammer. And everyone's like, we're paying $5,000 for a hammer? And at that time, I was like, this government's out of control. And then I realized they didn't pay $5,000 for a hammer. They bought a hammer at a regular price, and the rest of that money goes to a black ops. That's my opinion. It goes to a black ops. Mm-hmm. So it's accountable, and people would rather go nuts over, like, I can't believe you're spending that money on a hammer, and you're doing, like, espionage sabotage in, like, Latin America. We can't really put that on the ledger. You know, you can't give that to account. Here's receipts for throwing an election in Venezuela. You know, it's like that's how they got it's a funny money game, right?
Yeah, it falls under state secrets privilege, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and could you break that down for us? Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of not too informed on it. I know that it's the ability for the military intelligence to shield the secrets from the judicial branch. Don't you love it that we can, like,
Yep.
That's crazy to me.
we're doing shady shit. You can't know about it.
It is. Military intelligence is not subject to congressional oversight. Mm-hmm. Really, it's not. And it's interesting because the military has, like, its own community. The military has its own code of military justice. They have their own courts, right?
Unbelievable.
They have their own way of doing things that is different from the civilian side of things. So in the same way that we have the FBI and the DOJ, they investigate and prosecute civilian crimes. Military intelligence investigates and prosecutes crimes related to the military and terrorism. So the military has an entirely separate, like a firewall between them and the civilian agencies. And yeah, they're able to have technology and procedures that the civilians don't know about.
Yeah, they established this in 1953, so after World War II, right? And then they expanded it after 9/11.
Unbelievable. Oh, yeah.
So
dude.
here's the exact criteria. There is a reasonable danger that disclosure of evidence will expose military matters which, in the interests of national security, should be not divulged.
Which sounds like a really great idea, but like any great idea, it always gets manipulated by either evil or stupid, right?
Totally. I picture...
It could be, and during the 80s and 90s it probably was. But what we have seen with Q Q has sort of said, actually, the opposite has happened. The civilian agencies, FBI, DOJ, were corrupted. NSA to some degree, CIA big time corrupted. And the generals saw what was happening and they wanted to stop it.
Now they saw that it was going to destroy the world, and the generals sought for a person they could work with who would help them fix that corruption. I can't agree with that more. And the reason I think that is like, we have this whole theory that, through television, movies, entertainment, we watch.
The military is the bad guys.
That the military guys only want to go and overthrow everybody. But I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe that there's a large part of the military who joined because they wanted to protect America, which could be also keep peace in the world, right? So when we have started these wars, and they're banker wars, and they're all banker wars. I mean, the hammer and nail, we talked about it before. The hammer and the Wesley Clark hammer and the nail. When you're a hammer, every problem's a nail. Yep. And the 7 countries that we want to invade, that it's very close to the 7 countries that didn't have centralized banks. We've talked about that in past episodes. That I think the military starts waking up to going, oh man, we're going in and doing the deeds of these foreign entities that aren't even American entities. And we're putting our soldiers, our boys, our girls into peril to protect interests of people who aren't even our country. And and I've tweeted this before, and I got a lot of crap even from fellow comedians about how I said that our military at some point had gotten hijacked by dark forces. And I do believe that there are people who within the military have seen this as well firsthand, not like me, third hand, but firsthand, and are kind of realizing that this is not good, that this is not what they got into, and that it's not good for the country.
It is not what they got into, and they don't want it. Look, the war in Syria is all about a gas pipeline.
Yep.
The only reason why we went into Syria, why we were ever involved in Syria, is because Qatar and Saudi Arabia wanted to push a natural gas pipeline through Syria, through Turkey into Southern Europe, because they wanted to export their natural gas to Southern Europe for a lot of money. Problem is, at that time, Saudi and Kuwaitis didn't have the military that could pull it off. So they hired the American military. They donated billions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
They donated a lot of money to Obama. They hired our politicians to take our military to go into Syria and try to remove Assad and get him out of there, so that then we would put in a puppet who would allow Qatar and Saudi to push their gas pipeline into Southern Europe. Putin opposed it. The only reason Putin got involved is because Putin wants to run a gas pipeline, a competing gas pipeline through Syria into Southern Europe.
Right.
Gazprom can pump gas into Southern Europe.
Well,
that is the only reason why that war in Syria ever took place.
Well, because also Russia supplies Europe with like 40 to 50% of their energy.
Right.
If that pipeline comes, that goes away. That cripples that entire country stuff. So I get it on both sides. Neither of them are doing it for righteousness. Okay, there's money at stake, and again, like I don't know why the U.S. economy. It's like when what's his name, Ron Paul III or whatever, Rand Paul is on. Wolf Blitzer's CNN thing, and he's calling like, dude, there's no proof of chemical attacks. This is more sending our troops doing banker wars, basically. And Wolf Blitzer's like, well, if we don't do these wars and we don't bomb Yemen or Syria, the Saudis aren't going to buy our helicopters, and that's going to cost American jobs. And I'm like, how do you not smack Wolf Blitzer? I mean, to say that.
Wolf Blitzer is former CIA, don't you?
Oh, he's CIA and he has dual citizenship with Israel. I mean, it's just the truth of the matter. And it's like, again, we talk about it all the time. It's like, this is nothing against the average Joe or Jane in Israel. We're talking war hawk shit. So it's like, here's a guy who's pushing the narrative of the war hawks, and I'm anti-war. I don't want to do the war. I don't want to fight another country's war. I don't want our boys going in and our girls going in to fight for somebody else's battles. That's my opinion, okay? So getting back to the military real quick, and we'll get into some of the questions we had come up with. But so one day, and I said this before on the show, but I want you to know about it. I get an email from somewhere, and it says usnavy.org. And I'm like, what is that? And like, I'm already paranoid because I do a conspiracy podcast. So I'm like, I'm not going to look into this. But the email says, follow the white rabbit. So later on, I see this thing with North Korea and the hair and all that stuff, and we'll get into that later. But I go, wow, white rabbit. I look into it, and it is a spreadsheet that is basically every one of like Q's drops that he was about to drop that I got early. When you say October, right after that. And it had been dropped to me, and it had all the info on it with all like North Korea, Houthis, boom, boom, boom. And I was like, oh man, this got sent to me before. If I had put this out, it would have been amazing. But like, I had gotten it early from a very high, at least that's what they had made it seem like, a very high up at the U.S. Navy system. So,
wow, that's interesting.
It's like, it blew my mind, dude, because we were still very new at that point. Mm-hmm. But like the beginning, this thing that later on I started seeing all these drops really blew my mind. What is who is the white rabbit? Do we know what the why he always says follow the white rabbit, or why on Twitter, which we thought was his Twitter feed?
Sure, the white rabbit. Well, where does the white rabbit come from? White rabbit is a reference to Alice in Wonderland, right?
Right.
Okay, so Q has I'll explain this as briefly as I can, but Q is telling the world about a series of operations that Trump and his administration are putting into effect, and those operations all have code names.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland is one of them. Godfather 3 is another one. Iron Eagle is another one. Hunt for Red October is another one. There's a reason why most of them are named after movies.
And what do you think that reason is?
Each one of them is a code name for a particular aspect or operation that Trump is putting into effect. And they have, and Q is telling us ahead of time, I'm giving you a code name about an operation as it unrolls, as we pull this out, as these people get prosecuted, as this particular operation unwinds. You're going to look back at that code name and go, wow, you were telling us about that the whole time.
It is crazy. Okay? It's crazy.
Here's now, Q has the Alice in Wonderland operation only lasted for about a week.
Okay.
Before Q told the Anons what it was. Okay. So when Q first started posting, he made these references to Alice in Wonderland. And it wasn't Alice in Wonderland, it was Alice and Wonderland. What? So one of the Anons did some research and found out that somebody wrote a parody of Lewis Carroll's book, Alice in Wonderland, and it was about Hillary Clinton. and Saudi Arabia is known as the Bloody Wonderland.
Creepy.
So this Anon put these two things together and said, are you telling me that Alice in Wonderland is Hillary Clinton and Saudi Arabia? And Q says, you got it. That is what I'm talking about. It is about how the Saudis funded Hillary Clinton and a lot of politicians in the U.S. And when the Saudi princes were arrested that first week of November,
yes,
that cut the strings to the political, to the politicians and the money that was coming in that was funding terrorism, that was funding corruption in politics. And it actually exposed a lot of those politicians. It took away their financial support. That was Alice in Wonderland.
Is there any truth to the speculation that perhaps QAnon is actually artificial intelligence, and that is just basically?
Well, that's a good question.
Because the way
last night Q posted because he screwed up his trip code when he was entering, and he forgot to put in the Q in his trip code.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we made a mistake on the research board. We exposed our password. We did not input the Q number in the beginning, which exposed a password error has been corrected. Everything is safe. One of the board moderators said, hey, Q, you need a new trip code. He goes, hey, we all make mistakes. And all the Anons are like, well, that tells us you're not artificial intelligence if you're making mistakes.
No, that's very interesting,
No,
dude.
that tells me that he is artificial intelligence, because we is like a thing that you would say if you were an all like encompassed computer system, because it's not like a computer like this. We're talking a quantum computer.
Well, Q often refers to himself individually, but sometimes, rarely, will say we.
Wow.
Sometimes I, sometimes me, sometimes the team. Q refers to himself with many different in different ways.
Because the way the questions are sometimes proposed, it reminds me of Hal from Space Odyssey. You know.
Yes.
He's I want to play a
But
game.
you have to realize, Q is speaking in a language that is reminiscent of many of the movies that we are familiar with. Space Odyssey. There's a lot of references to war games.
Yes.
Would you like to play a game?
Yeah.
How about a game of chess? Okay. Q makes a lot of movie references because a lot of our people in our generation, we remember that. We relate to it. And that's intentional.
So what are some of the he puts out crumbs. They call them crumbs, right? And your videos resonate again. We're with the Praying Medic. If you guys want to find him on YouTube, it's youtube.com/Praying Medic, and also on Twitter @Praying Medic. And he breaks all this stuff down. Your videos are so well done. So what are crumbs? So if some of our listeners, because it's kind of getting into what you were talking about, like what are the crumbs?
I had to learn about this because I didn't know a whole lot about 4chan or 8chan when I started doing this. But essentially, the 4chan and 8chan, they have their own vernacular. When you drop hints and clues for people to research, those are called crumbs. When you create a thread of crumbs and hints and suggestions, that thread is called a bread. And the moderators on 4chan and 8chan who create these threads, they're called bakers.
Wow.
So when you think of bakers, bread, and crumbs, you just think of these threads that are started. They're just conversation threads about different topics, clues, and hints.
That's amazing, dude. Now, what are some of you kind of got into some of the Godfather 3 and all that stuff? What are some of the more popular codes that he drops? Some of the popular crumbs.
Let me give you a very interesting one.
This is so much fun, by the way. I'm having the best time.
Let me give you a very interesting one.
I've got the
thing open here. This one will blow your mind. This one is going to blow your mind.
I love this, dude. I could do this all day.
Okay. So this is from a post on November 20th of last year. And I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
Read the end of it. Who has all of the information? NSA, right? NSA has everything.
Okay.
No such agency. Q says no such agency. The hunter becomes the hunted. Operations underway. Operators are active. Disinformation is real. Disinformation is necessary. Silent war. Some gets out. The Great Awakening. Iron Eagle. Godfather 3. Hunt for Red October. Okay. Q signed off this long stringer. I didn't read all of it, but he signed off with mention of 4 things: Great Awakening, Iron Eagle, Godfather 3, Hunt for Red October. 3 of them are films. Great Awakening is just, it's a spiritual thing. There were many different Great Awakenings in America and Europe and all. That's what that's refers to. So anyway, Iron Eagle as an example. Okay, let me talk really quickly about Godfather 3.
Okay.
What is the main plot to Godfather 3? You know?
I've never seen it.
Is that
It is about it has to do with the Vatican. and how Michael Corleone gets involved in loaning billions of dollars to the Vatican to bail them out.
What?
Okay, that is a main plot line in Godfather 3.
Really?
Now, here's the interesting thing. Q has been talking a lot about the Pope, about the Vatican, and about these evil people and their funding. And Q's allusion to Godfather 3 is a code for this operation. Eventually, I think, we're going to see corruption exposed in the Vatican. And with the people that are funding the Vatican. So that's just one of the operations that Q has been talking about under the code name. All right?
Yeah, man.
Let me talk about Iron Eagle.
Go.
Iron Eagle is another code name, and it stands for some operation. And he posted this on November 20th, and this is now, what, May 9th?
Yeah.
So it's been 6 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And people have been trying to figure out, what the hell is Iron Eagle all about? They've been figuring out the other ones. Everyone's like, what is Iron Eagle? We know it stands for something. We don't know what it means. So at the end of April, Q started to expose openly more and more parts of the plan that he had been hinting about. And one of the Anons, suddenly it dawns on him, oh crap, I think I know what Iron Eagle is. He goes, there's this annual training exercise that is done by all the NATO forces. UK, Germany, France, United States, there's like 17 nations.
Right.
And they do this annual training exercise in Jordan every year. And it's called Eager Lion.
Eagle,
all right,
Iron? Lion?
Eager Lion.
Okay.
It's not an operation like Desert Storm. It's a training exercise called Eager Lion. They've been doing this training exercise every year since 2010. Joint training exercise, all of the NATO military forces, they go to Jordan and they do live fire training. It's called Eager Lion.
Yeah.
And it's held last week of April and the first week of May every year. And one of the Anons goes, holy shit, dude, I think Iron Eagle is Eager Lion. It's an anagram. If you take the letters and scramble them around, you come up with Iron Eagle.
Shut up.
Now listen.
Crazy.
What happened, what's relevant is what happened during Eager Lion this year.
Talk to me.
While all the NATO forces were doing live fire training in Jordan, Benjamin Netanyahu exposes Iran's secret nuclear weapons program.
That is crazy, right? And then Q's been talking about
Have
this
you
shit.
heard about that? Like,
Yeah.
this came out like about 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Where Netanyahu goes on. He has this big thing. He's got all these CDs and all this information about Iran's secret nuclear weapons program. That happened while we had our forces in Jordan. It was timed. Trump and the generals strategically timed with Netanyahu the exposure of Iran's secret nuclear weapons program to coincide with Operation Eager Lion.
Wow.
So that if Iran or Russia tried to do anything stupid, we had our forces already there ready to deal with it. Under the cover of a live fire training drill.
Wow.
You had been telling us this whole thing for 6 months was going to come under the code name Iron Eagle. It was an anagram. Mind blown.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, are you
It
kidding
is
me?
that sophisticated, and it really is that sophisticated.
It is that sophisticated.
And that's why we need people like you to break that down, because no one would
Well,
ever
let me-
come up with that.
Dude, let me tell you about the hunt for Red October. Okay.
Please.
This is just this is short. At the same time, November 20th, Q was posting Hunt for Red October. And everyone was guessing and guessing and guessing what Red October was all about. Okay. And then in March, I think, there was an article that was published about Japan's steel industry and how they had been falsely certifying inferior grade steel and selling it to the U.S. as high grade steel. And the CEO of Japan's third largest steel company got caught up in the scandal, and he resigned in shame. And then it was kind of revealed that Russia and China have also been certifying inferior grade steel and selling it to us. And it includes steel that is in our military hardware.
I mean, the real
and
dark.
Q has suggested that we allowed inferior grade steel to be sold to the U.S. to weaken our defense capabilities.
And the real dark behind all that. Yeah, go on.
Okay, here's the kicker. One of the major steel plants in Russia is called Red October Steel Plant.
Shut up!
So Q was telling us in November a scandal about the international steel market was going to be exposed, and in March we found out about it. But it was timed, and it was coded so that when it got exposed, we could look at that steel plant, Red October, and go, "Damn, he was telling us about this the whole time." And nobody figured it out until the right time.
Listen, dude, this gives me so much hope because I've talked about, I've done Jimmy Dore's show and I did his live show and I was talking, the level of treason going on in Washington, D.C. right now under this, like, get mine, get paid, greed is good, it would make Benedict Arnold sad. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it, and I don't know if it's been going on forever. I do think that there is this whole thing when Nixon took us off the gold standard, put us on the oil, that is the beginning of something. And I don't know if that was the start, but that's when, in my mind, is the first sign there's something else going on here. And then, don't even get me started. And we'll get into this, the Bushes and the Clintons and what they've done to this country is like unbelievable, and how, through Q, we've learned that some really dark stuff's going on. And this makes me think that, because I have hope in my heart that this is the taking back of America
Q
first.
gives us hope that the corrupt people are going to be put in jail, and that their deeds are going to be exposed and justice is going to be served.
Like a lot of people get mad at Trump right now, and I know that some people are into Trump. I live in LA. They're not a lot of Trump people here. But when everybody got mad at him throwing tariffs on China and people's heads exploded, like it's the worst thing that ever happened in history. What they don't seem to understand is that we were getting tariffed by China, and which was done on purpose to make American companies go set up shop in China so they wouldn't get tariffed. And to me, that is embarrassing and disgusting. And people hate the word tariff because it sounds like terrorism and taxes had a baby called tariffs. And it's not true at all. What it does is equal the playing field so that these companies that go into Southeast Asia and all these places where they pay people $1 a day to work, well, now it levels the playing field so that they have to pay so that they can actually open jobs in America. I'm not somebody who says manufacturing's gone. I agree with that. I think that is propaganda put out by very high ups in these corporations to make us think we don't have hope. And that's my opinion.
The proof is in the pudding. And there's an interesting news article out there. I posted this on Twitter a couple months ago. As soon as Trump announced that he was going to impose a 20% tariffs on solar panels imported from China, the next day, one of the major solar panel producers in China announced they were going to build a plant in the U.S. to build solar panels.
I know. The
next day.
And we're going to get into a lot of this shit because we have about like 20 minutes left, so we're going to have to fly through a lot of this stuff. I believe, we had a Truth Cat on our podcast recently. She does the Truth Factory on YouTube. It's a wonderful channel. And the first time she got on, she talked about how she believed that Trump was a negotiator. And we're going to get into the Clintons real quick, that how he plays a game, and that let's take Syria. We're like, one day he's literally like, we are pulling out of Syria. And then the next 2 days later, he's bombing it. But they don't tell you where he bombed. They never said where he hit. And there's all this talk through Q and all this talk through the community that he hit like black hats sites and stuff like that.
Well, Iran was building a secret nuclear weapons facility in northern Syria.
Yeah, and that came out recently.
The airstrikes by the U.S. troops and Israel was going after the nuclear facilities. That's what they were bombing.
That's
under the cover of chemical weapons. Because they didn't want yet anyone to know that they knew that there was a secret nuclear weapons facility being built. They didn't want to expose that. They wanted to wait until Netanyahu brought out the proof. So they hit the nuclear weapons facilities and under the cover of its chemical weapons. It's unfortunate they had to use that deception, but it's just part of the plan.
I get it. Now, Ryan, did you have anything you wanted to bring up? Because I'm going to go into these PowerPoints.
When you said Red October steel plant, I typed in those 4 words into Google. And the very first thing that popped up was the CIA website, which I hang out on all the time. And so I went there, and it's a document from World War II talking about a steel plant called Red October in Stalingrad. It's so crazy to think that, like, I mean, you guys should hang out on the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, lot like I do. You can have some fun. So that's all.
That is mind blowing.
Yeah, you're blowing my mind too.
You
Good
did
job.
blow my mind. So let's do some PowerPoints. I sent you the list. It's like, let's break down some of Q's. Trump. Who, according to Q, got Trump elected? Because there's people who want to believe Russian collusion. I don't believe that at all. How do you think this historic upset happens?
It happened because, well, according to Q, the generals recruited Trump to run for president, and they gave him assurances that they would deal with election rigging. The election was going to be rigged in Hillary's favor. And the generals said, look, Trump, if you'll run, we will support you, we'll defend you, we'll make sure nothing happens to you, and we'll give you a fair shot at winning the election. We'll make sure that election rigging doesn't happen. We'll defeat their plan to rig the election, and you'll have a fair chance to win. I think that's why.
Are they the alliance? Are they part of the alliance?
Yes.
And who is the alliance for those who don't know?
I don't know how you define the alliance. It's a new term for me, but I understand that there was a group of generals who recruited Trump, and some people refer to that group as the alliance.
And now, is there alliance within the intelligence agencies? Obviously, the Q department, we would think they're part of the alliance. Is there any part of the CIA or the FBI that is?
There are components inside the intelligence agencies that are working with the alliance. The issue is the alliance is mostly military, and there has been a lot of corruption in the civilian agencies, NSA, CIA, FBI, DOJ. That is all being rooted out and gotten rid of. So in the future, we'll be able to trust the civilian intelligence agencies more. But I think some of those people, obviously Admiral Rogers, and a couple of people have been working with the alliance.
Okay. What do you think, Clinton? I mean, I have a bet with my friend DJ Crash on whether we'll ever see either Clintons do the perp walk. Do you think that day will ever happen?
I have. God speaks to me a lot through dreams.
Okay.
I've had dozens of dreams about Q and different aspects of what Q is doing. And I've also had a lot of dreams about Trump, including dreams about Q's relationship to Trump. And 3 months ago, I had a dream where Hillary Clinton was on social media daring the cops to arrest her. She's going to get arrested. So is Obama. They're both going to jail.
We'll get into Obama.
I would bet my next paycheck on it.
What kind of suggestions does Q make about Hillary? What does he say about her?
One of the most interesting observations that Q has made about Hillary is that she was a very powerful person. And because she was connected to the Saudi the money from the Saudi family. She was connected to the Rothschilds and connected to Soros. They all funded her. The deal was they give her money, she wins the election, they get political favors.
Yeah, and that seems to be the game.
The election. What happens when you owe a lot of money to the mob?
You get whacked.
And you can't pay it back. Hugh has suggested that Hillary is desperate and she's fighting for her life because she owes a lot of bad people a lot of money.
Yeah.
And she can't pay it back.
Her father was a head of took over the crime family of Chicago. After what's his face gets arrested, thrown in jail for tax evasion, he what's his name? What was the famous mobster?
Al Capone.
Al Capone, right? I believe the story is Al Capone gets thrown in jail. Hillary Rodham Clinton
Tax evasion, right?
her dad takes over the mob at that point. And there's tons of evidence if you search for it. If you're waiting for Rachel Maddow to tell you that, or Wolf Blitzer, or anybody on television to tell you that, it's never going to happen. And that's where she gets the idea of people getting whacked all the time. Let's get into Obama. I really want to get into Obama. I voted for Obama the first time. I did not vote for him the second time because I saw, and this is where I really start to get into, like, the system's rigged. It's all rigged. I mean, I knew when Bush steals the election in Florida, it's big. I don't know. I'm assuming that you're a conservative based on some of your beliefs. But are you a Bush person? Do you not see Bush as a black hat, or do you see? I mean, I see them just as bad as the Clintons. They're two crime families. Any thoughts on that?
It's my belief now that, you talked about General Wesley Clark and his message about how people in the Pentagon decided that we were going to attack 7 different nations in 5 years, right?
Yes.
Who was he talking about? He was talking about Wolfowitz. He was talking about Cheney. He was talking about all these people in the Defense Department.
Yep.
Right? And government agencies who we know as the deep state. They're unelected people in Defense Department, CIA, FBI, DOJ. They're career people. They're not elected. Some people, they like to call themselves the B team, because they say to the politicians, after you're gone, we're still going to be here. So
wow.
James Comey came out last week and admitted that the deep state exists. Okay, he said the deep state is real. So it's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
He also said, but the deep state does not is not in some plot to undermine the president. Well, up until Trump, that's probably true, because the deep state, they are the power brokers who put into power our presidents, and they control the agenda.
Picked, not elected.
The unelected politicians. So why did the Bushes go and create all the wars in the Middle East? Because Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld and all these other guys, they decided what our foreign policy was going to be. Wesley Clark said we underwent a policy coup. All right?
Yeah.
Our foreign policy was dictated by unelected officials in government. Okay? So everyone between Kennedy and Trump, with the possible exception of Reagan, has been controlled by a puppet of the deep state. They get involved in the wars that the deep state tells them to. They bomb the places the deep state tells them to. They pay off whoever the deep state tells them to. Almost all of them leveraged, blackmailed. And that has been the way it has been since Rome. Why did Rome fall? Rome fell because the Roman Senate was completely corrupt.
100%. 100%.
All right, and every government since then has been based on, you get people that you can blackmail, that you have things that you can hold over them, and you control them to get your agenda. That's what politics has always been about. So my belief is that most of the presidents since Kennedy have been puppets of the deep state. Trump is the exception because they tried to get dirt on Trump. Trump could not be blackmailed. He has no bet. He doesn't have any crimes that he has to hide. Look, Obama's intelligence community looked and looked and looked for dirt on Trump, and the best thing they could find was the Billy Bush tapes.
Okay.
That was the best they could come up with on Trump. That was the worst dirt they found. And most of the guys and a lot of women heard that and they were like, whatever, just guy talk, who cares? So Trump is clean and Trump can't be blackmailed. And Trump is the existential threat to this system. Okay?
Yeah.
Trump came along. They never thought they were going to lose control of this intelligence apparatus. They created this intelligence apparatus to spy on everybody, get everybody's information, and everything would be okay as long as some outsider never got a hold of it. If an outsider ever got a hold of that intelligence apparatus, he would get control of all the information, all the emails, messages on everybody. And he would have the dirt on everybody. So they could never let that happen. Unfortunately for them, Trump won the election. And now he has the dirt on all the people who have been blackmailing and extorting and murdering people for years.
So
what do you think Trump is going to do with that information?
Gonna use it against them.
He is. He's going to have them all prosecuted.
Hey, dude, I'm going to get into this. And by the way, the end of our show is going to be interesting because we do something with our resident skeptic, and I can already see him over there hemming and hawing. I agree with you. During the Bernie Sanders primary campaign, Bernie Sanders gets in trouble for data mining. The DNC says, which we know is corrupt later on thanks to Donna Brazil's book, that Hillary basically bought, sold, and controlled every single aspect of the DNC. Well, the DNC accuses Bernie of stealing data. Well, Bernie comes out, well, the guy who did it is the guy that the DNC recommended I get on my team, okay? So that says to me, this dude is a plant. They planted that guy on Bernie Sanders' team to get him in trouble if he gets too dangerous. Now, let's go forward to the Trump campaign, right? So we see Trump, we see Hillary put out that these are the three guys we want to push, that she thinks she can beat them. Trump is one of them. So the Fox News, and even Fox News is in on it. They push Trump really hard, saying all these crazy things. He's a straight shooter. They're pushing him because they believe, the deep state believes, that Hillary will destroy him in the long run. Who goes on to Trump's transition team? Carter Page. Who is Carter Page? Well, Carter Page was part of the Clinton team way back when Clinton went into the White House, the Bill Clinton's White House transition team. He is a Clinton asset. He's been put on Trump's transition team. He was also an FBI informant. Yes, so that's who they throw the thank you, dude.
6 months before the FBI took an application to FISA court to surveil Carter Page because they said he was a Russian spy. Carter Page was an FBI informant.
Yes, dude. He's a plant. He's a plant. He's a plant. He's put there so that they could throw the FISA warrant on him. That's how they knew it was a total fucking plan. And the FISA courts give 99% of their applications for wiretapping. They greenlight 99% of them. So they knew this was going to happen. They knew this was going to happen. So some Russian collusion shit happens where they're trying. That's how they spin what little things they hear. And I'm not saying that, like, you have a little more idealistic view of Trump than I do. There's an old saying that, you have a better chance of getting a camel through the eye of a needle than you do getting a rich man into heaven. So I don't think anybody is clean, and that would apply to myself. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not judging you in any way, but I'm saying when I look at myself, I do not walk on water. People do make mistakes. But Obama, 100%. Now, going into, once he's elected, the fucking FISA wiretapping should stop. No, they keep wiretapping an elected president in hopes of finding something that they can unseat him and put Hillary in. Like, the notion would be that Hillary would be the natural replacement. It wouldn't go down to Michael Pence, and there's questions about Michael Pence as well. Is he part of the whole cabal, you know? But that's what they think. They literally wiretap. That is Watergate. That is 100% Watergate, but it's on steroids because he's already been elected, man. So you have an outgoing president.
Well, they didn't just surveil Carter Page. They had Carter Page under Title I FISA, which means every person Carter Page comes in contact with, they can look at all your information, emails, private messages, text messages, phone calls, everybody Carter Page comes in contact with, and that means the entire Trump campaign and all of Carter Page's immediate circle.
It's
that is like unprecedented level of spying.
That's
way
the
worse
desperation.
Than water. That's like a million times worse than water.
If we go to Manoff too, the Manoff the indictments, they're based on stuff he did for the Ukraine, which is money laundering, that he did for the Podesta Group, which again is a Clinton Foundation group. I mean, they work. The Podestas work for the Clintons. Again, it's another thing that involves the Clintons. Nobody wants to talk about this because you won't hear Bill Maher talk about it, or you won't hear Rachel Maddow talk about it. But I want to get in. And then, do you have any thoughts on Obama-Contra, which is the Hezbollah stuff, which is stuff we've heard through Q, right? Which is basically... Here we go
it's all going to be exposed.
Iran-Contra now.
Obama was involved in some very bad stuff. The Iran deal, Hezbollah, selling weapons to ISIS. Look, you can go on all the military blogs, the special forces guys, and they were so pissed off because they knew that they were training and arming ISIS operatives.
Let me ask you something.
We were arming the Taliban. Obama has a lot of dirt that he's going to have to answer.
Let me ask you something. Now, is this done for just the sake of destabilization? Meaning, because if there's the belief that, you know, that the prince who owned Twitter, who I think is dead now, he owned the Saudi prince, died in a helicopter crash.
Al-Walid, Prince Al-Walid actually owned a lot of Twitter and owned, I think, the top floors of Mandalay Bay.
That's that's another day.
It's tied. It's all tied in.
100%. And I want to have you back because we're going to run out of time real quick. But is this simply done to basically be able to get uranium to Iran so that they, in fact, get a nuclear program, which allows us now to go into Iran? Is like, because Obama's a Saudi guy, and they hate Iran too. So what is the play on that? And then I got to get into Mueller, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. Let me give you the big plan in like 2 minutes. Okay. If you understand what the globalists are all about, the globalists are about a borderless, one world community with no international borders. Just one big world global community with one centralized government that rules over the entire world. Okay. How do you attain that goal? That's their goal. That's their end game, is a global government that rules over the entire world with no sovereign nation states. Okay. What you have to do is you have to get rid of all the international borders. You have to get rid of all sovereign governments, right? How do you do that? How do you accomplish that? Their goal is to accomplish that through war.
Yeah, you were talking about that on the last one.
The two nations that stand in the way of their plans are Russia and the United States, because the U.S. has a strong sovereign national identity, and so does Russia. And Putin and Trump are the two strongest anti-globalist leaders in the world.
I agree, dude.
So the only way that the globalists are ever going to get their agenda is if they can get Russia and Russia and the United States to either submit to the global government or wipe each other out. So what you try to do is you try to get Russia or United States to pick a war with the other country. They have an all-out war. You devastate both countries. They launched the nukes. You come in with the European Union and the UN after the World War III, and they install a national government, of a global government over everybody, and say, we're never going to do this again. We're never going to have another war like this. We're going to have a global government. We're going to get rid of all international boundaries. That was the goal. And the way they were going to do it, they were building a secret weapons program, nuclear weapons program with Iran and Syria. And the goal was, here's where uranium one comes in.
All right.
You can trace uranium isotopes because they have a fingerprint. Okay? The uranium that was being mined out of North America was supposed to be going to Russia, and only Russia.
Why would that happen?
And they kind of covered that up, because when they did the Uranium One deal, the company that had the uranium didn't have an international shipping agreement. They didn't, from the Atomic International Regulatory Agency, they had no shipping agreement, or they had no legal ability to ship uranium outside the United States, outside North America. But Transport Logistics did, and they contracted with Transport Logistics. Transport Logistics was the trucking company, the firm that moved the uranium out of North America. And Transport Logistics CEO got indicted a couple of months ago in the Uranium One scandal. His name is Langford or something like that. He was the CEO of Uranium One. He got indicted along with this whole Uranium One thing. So the really sneaky thing they did was, when they were shipping the uranium to Russia, they were secretly shipping some of it to Syria and Iran to help them build their weapons program. And what they were going to do was, when Iran and Syria got their nuclear weapons going, they would launch nukes. People would figure, where the hell did they get nukes from? Where did they get enriched uranium from? Oh, they would trace it. They would find out it came from the batch that was sold to Russia from Uranium One, and they would say Russia sold it to them.
Yep.
When really it came from Clinton and Obama. They funneled part of that uranium secretly to Syria and Iran to blame Russia down the road.
Fucking believable.
That is what Q has laid out. In the last 2 weeks, Q has laid out crumbs that suggest that McCain and Obama and Hillary secretly funneled uranium into Iran to build a weapons program, and then later they would frame Russia for supplying them the uranium.
Fucking.
Now let me ask you a question. Are you personally afraid of a nuclear war in our lifetime?
No.
Yeah, because
Trump is in office. If Hillary got elected, 100% guarantee we'd be in a nuclear war. Now that Trump is in office and all this crap is being exposed, I think we have a very, very good chance of not having nuclear war. Look what's happened in North Korea.
It's just weird because Americans are the only people that have ever dropped a nuclear
Not
warhead.
true, man.
The last time it was done was August 9th, 1945.
Israel did it in Yemen. They call it a tactical nuke, which makes it sound like it's not as bad. It is a smaller nuke. It's how you deliver it. But they dropped a fucking bomb in Yemen. Why? Because Yemen is basically pro-Palestine. And they did it not to kill anybody, but they didn't hit anything. They dropped it to contaminate the environment. Now, I know you might have to go. So real quick, can you tell us, and then I just want to hear Aaron's thoughts, and we'll get out of here. Mm-hmm. Tell us about Mueller. Is Mueller a white hat? Is he a black hat? Is he a black hat being controlled by the white hats to do the white hat stuff? What is your thought on Mueller?
My thoughts on Mueller changed a couple of nights ago.
Oh, really? From the video I saw. That's interesting. What's your thoughts now?
My thoughts on Mueller changed a couple of nights ago because I went back and I looked at some of Q's earliest drops, and something that Q said, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me.
All right,
It totally changed how I see Mueller. All right. Q has been dropping information for a long time that Mueller is not who we think he is. He's not actually going after Trump. That this whole thing is smokescreen. All right. Q has recently asked why, if everyone knows that Mueller was FBI head under Uranium One, Fast and Furious, Benghazi,
Yeah.
how come Trump isn't tweeting about Mueller's involvement in all of this dark crap? Why does Trump never say anything directly that assassinates Mueller's character? He goes after Comey.
Yep.
He goes after Schumer. He goes after Pelosi. He goes after everybody else who he perceives as an enemy. He's never said anything directly negative about Mueller.
Right.
Now, let me go back to this post from Q on October 29th. Remember, the FBI and military intelligence have open investigations into the Clinton Foundation. Okay, we know that. Why did Comey drop the Clinton email investigation? Who was the FBI director during the Haiti crisis? Mueller. Mueller was FBI director during Haiti, during Uranium One, during Fast and Furious, during all of Obama's scandals. Mueller was FBI director. Okay. How much relief actually went to Haiti? What countries donated big money to the Clinton Foundation, and why? How much was owed by accepting? When she lost, how would she repay? Now, think about this. So Hugh here is saying Hillary owes a lot of bad people a lot of money. And when she lost the election, she couldn't repay the money. It was supposed to be political favors now. So what does that tell you? That tells you that Hillary is Murder Incorporated. I mean, the Clinton crime family, right?
100%.
Okay. What did Obama do with cash just prior to leaving office? Repayment to those who donated for favors and access? And he tells the Anons, dig. Now, here's where it comes to Mueller. Again, good people were forced into bed with this evil under personal and family threats. Hugh is saying Mueller was forced to go along with all this crap because they were threatening him and his family.
That's one way to look at it.
So let me ask you this. If you're working with the Clintons because they're threatening you, you know that these people are bad.
Yeah.
The Clinton body count is real. And FBI Anon went on 4chan and said, nobody wants to go up against the Clinton machine because they know they'll end up in a body bag.
Body counts, Clinton body count, we've talked about on this show before.
So Q is suggesting that Mueller was forced to go along with this crap because he was being threatened. Him and his family were being threatened. And he had to go along. Now, Hugh says, could you live with yourself helping to cover up such evil and despicable acts if you were given a safe way out?
Yeah.
Trump goes to Mueller and says, here's the deal. We need someone to help us prosecute the deep state. We need someone to go after the Clintons and Obama and all these corrupt people. And Mueller says, I'm your man. You give me exoneration for all the shit that I was involved in, and I will help you prosecute those people.
Well,
because they screwed up my life, and they screwed up the lives of a lot of people. So Mueller strikes a deal with Trump, and they tell Mueller, okay, here's the deal. If the Clintons and the deep state know you're going after them, they're going to want to kill all of us.
Yeah.
So they cannot know that we're going after them. It has to look like we're going after you, Mr. President.
Now, can I just say something real quick?
It is a big psyop. It is a big distraction. Mueller is working with Trump. Mueller is going to be exonerated from all this stuff, and he is secretly helping prosecute the criminals.
And the reason that there is something to that is that the meeting in which the mainstream media paints as Mueller meeting with Trump is Trump wants to ask him if he'd be the FBI director.
Be the FBI director.
He couldn't. He did his 10 years. It was impossible for him to be named that.
And Congress gave him a 2-year extension. So he was not eligible to be FBI director. He meets with Trump and Rosenstein, and the next day they announce he's going to be special counsel.
So you think
that meeting, they told Mueller what the plan was, and they offered him redemption, and they offered him a chance to help take these people down.
This is amazing. This is amazing. I mean, there's so many times that he's been right. He talked about the Amtrak crash. He talked about Clinton's house burning. He's talked about North Korea, the white rabbit, the white hair. I mean, I can go on forever and ever. Now, has he been wrong on stuff? Yes. But there's also, when you put out this information, it changes the narrative. Things change. So, we're not the only ones, I'm sure, watching this stuff. I'm sure the black hats are watching it as well. And that they're knowing, and then that changes how
it's
they
too
operate.
Late for them. It's too late for them. They're all going to be indicted. That is why Q recently started to unveil more of the plan and started to suggest that maybe their trust in Mueller was misplaced, because it's too late for them to do anything. They are already screwed.
I love this. Any thoughts on this, Ryan?
It's definitely not my forte, but it's so crazy. It's like a game of cloak and dagger.
It
It'd make
really
a really
is.
good movie, right?
It's so good, dude. And, I have a friend of mine. We'll just call him Jiu-Jitsu Dan. He's a good friend who's also out of Arizona. He's he's a friend of mine. He was one of the first, I think he was the first guest on this show. He brought on Dr. Mary's monkeys and the lasers and all this stuff, and he's very much into it. But he wasn't in the Vegas shooting. He was sticking with it. Was one guy, and I knew it wasn't. And all this stuff's coming out, and then he constantly is telling me that Q is a LARP. Constantly telling me a LARP, and I love Dan to death. But I'm like, Dan, you're wrong on this. He's been right, Q has been right too many times for it just to be nothing and not true. And I think it is hard for people to come to grips that maybe something's going on with Trump that people don't understand. That, maybe he was brought in to be the guy that Hillary could easily be. And then the generals came in and were like, no, man, we got to take this back because we have been hijacked. Make no doubts about it. Since World War II, there's been a game being played. The assassination of JFK and all the stuff coming out about JFK and all the stuff coming out about JFK Jr., how he's about to run for Senate and the day before his plane crashes. And boom, is that another body count on the Clintons thing? And people can't come to grips with that this family, who I say is basically the heroin dealing family from the Ozarks, the hillbilly drug dealers from the Ozarks that aren't afraid to whack anybody to get it done. That there's some darkness and we've been lied to a whole bunch of times. I tell people, if we can get Soros money out of the United States, this whole social justice warrior bullshit goes away. And I really want to believe, and I'm going to, man. I'm just going to come out and say it, man. I do think there's something going on with Trump that people don't understand. And I know we're about to bring Aaron on, who's going to go crazy. So don't take anything he says offensive. I would like to have you on all the time. Dave, I know you're a busy man, but I'd love to have you on like maybe once a month to give us updates on this stuff because it's so good. And I know our audience is going to be really excited about what the information you gave us. But should we leave him on to hear what Aaron has to say?
So Aaron is our skeptic and our audio guy. And
let's hear it. Let's do this.
Aaron.
Don't be an idiot.
Hey, Ron. Well, you better be sick, dead, or mute. Ron. You done messed up, Ron.
You filthy animal.
Aaron, be respectful. Okay? Respectful thoughts.
I can't get down with the fact that all these presidents since Kennedy, like you're saying, were all playing ball, and this narcissist billionaire real estate developer is somehow not also going to do the same thing.
Okay, that's an interesting take because that is a really good take.
Yeah.
That is a really good take.
Yeah.
But if you think that the verbiage between the establishment and Trump is status quo, even for Clinton, where they use that whole thing about, the fat chick blowing him in the Oval Office, and how that became something. If you think the verbiage is the same, that is crazy talk to me. That there's no way. I mean, you see Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, on Jimmy Kimmel, which is an ABC Disney program. That has never happened in the history of time.
So was that the real true calm before the storm?
Which is interesting.
We'd love to have you back on.
Well, Aaron, that was a little more civil than I thought it was going to be, but I'm okay with it. I appreciate you being respectful because I know you were steaming over there.
I think a year from now, Aaron is going to be a believer in Trump.
Oh, we've already
when
got.
We have a peace deal. When we have a peace deal with North Korea, when we have a peace deal with Iran and Syria, when all of our troops are out of Afghanistan, out of the Middle East, when 20 or 30,000 corrupt people in government have been prosecuted, when we're back on the gold standard,
I pray
people like Aaron will turn around and go, okay, there's something different about this guy.
He's shaking his head.
All right.
Hey, Dave, I'm with you, man.
Where can everyone find your stuff?
Yeah, tell them more about your stuff.
Go ahead and plug your
plug
YouTube
all your
page.
YouTubes, your everything. I know we said, but please give us some more plugs.
I'm on Facebook as Praying Medic. I am on Twitter as Praying Medic, at Praying Medic. I obviously have a YouTube channel. I am an author. I've published 12 books. They're all available on Amazon. I'm pretty much an Amazon-only author. PrayingMedic.com is my website where you can find links to my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube, all that stuff. I have over 1,000 free articles and videos on my website, PrayingMedic.com. You're welcome to go and check all that out. I have a podcast on Podbean, and it's also on my website. It's just Praying Medic Podcast. So yeah, you're welcome to go and check all that stuff out, and hit me up and holler at me if you've got questions.
Hey, I love it, man. This is one of my. I've been saying this a lot over the last 3 episodes we've done. Like, this is my favorite episode, but this was by far. Ryan, I'm sorry. I was just so giddy. I didn't let you jump in as much as I should. I was just super excited.
Fascinating.
So I appreciate you being cool with that and all the hard work you put in all the episodes. And I appreciate Aaron coming in and letting us do 4 episodes in a row over the last 3 days because I'm going to be out of town. And Dave, we appreciate you. And again, I'd love to have you on maybe once a month. I know you're a super busy man, but if we can make it happen, give us some more Q updates, keep it going, because I think people are going to love this episode. I know I loved it, and I'm excited to have our fans listen to it. So I have a great day. We appreciate everything, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time. Catch you later.
Take care. Ryan, you were great. Again, I'm sorry I steamrolled it.
Not at all. This is awesome. This is definitely out of my league, so you took the reins and you did a good job.
Yeah, you had the Anunnaki, and everyone says I did. I wasn't. I just listened. This is my passion. So we'll see you guys next week. We appreciate the numbers get bigger and better. We love you all. Take care.
May 25th, the Belly Room.
Belly Room, dog.